Hey everybody, Brett from AstartesGaming here. So about a week ago, I asked you guys in a community post here, also in a video, just to make you guys aware of the post, what you think we should play next, because I feel like we've been stagnating a little bit, as I said in the post, and I wanted to phase out some of the older stuff that wasn't doing particularly well, and bring in some new stuff that you guys wanted to see. And obviously, for me to figure out what that is, I need to hear it from you yourselves. So I asked you to let me know in this post, and it's been roughly a week, so I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the post now, tell you guys my thoughts on your various suggestions, let you know what I am going to plan on doing in the future, and go from there. So, very first comment on here, and these are sorted by, I believe, most likes, so effectively top comments. So basically, whoever got the most likes is what I'm going to see first. Therefore, that one is, like, you know, the most voted for, I suppose. Though I don't think I'm going to end up doing a formal poll. I talked about doing one last week in the video, and I think I mentioned it in here somewhere too. But this was pretty clear cut. I don't think there's a real need to do a poll. So far and away, the winner was Stellaris. And that was, I think last time I did something similar, Stellaris was pretty popular as well. I find that really interesting because I have played Stellaris on the channel. As you can see over here, my playlist, Stellaris, it has a playlist. There's about 20 videos in there. That was back at basically the game's release, and those videos got like no views. So I find it interesting that it did so poorly then, but seems to be so sought after now. I'm going to do it because that's what you guys wanted, and I said I'd play what you guys wanted. So Stellaris is a shoo-in at this point. It basically won. So we'll definitely do Stellaris, and I'll add that as soon as possible. Though, I would prefer to have a little bit more specific feedback from you guys regarding that. So let me know in the comments of this video, what sort of Stellaris Let's Play would you like to see? Do you want to see, you know, basically vanilla plus the DLCs potentially, with just some light modding in terms of, like, you know, quality of life stuff? Or do you want to just dive right into like a total overhaul? I think it makes more sense to play a little bit of, not essentially full-on vanilla, but close to vanilla first, just to get a feel for the game. For those of you on the channel that aren't familiar with the game, and then we can completely destroy it with mods in like a second playthrough, but I will leave that to you guys. So please let me know in the comments which of those things would you prefer. But it is, you know, entirely possible that we can do both. It's just more what would we be better off starting with. The second most upvoted or liked suggestion was doing RimWorld challenges. That was Zach Wagner, by the way, Stellaris, though I think other people suggested it in other comments as well. This was just like the first one. Skittles and Strawberry Milk suggests RimWorld challenges. So not like the thematic playthroughs that we do, but more vanilla RimWorld with like a specific challenge in mind. So like surviving an ice sheet, I guess. You guys would have to give me specific challenges to try. Though, because we're already playing RimWorld pretty extensively on the channel, I think it occupies like either a fourth or a third, probably closer to a fourth of like all the videos I post right now. I'm not going to add more RimWorld on top of that, but we will try to integrate challenges into the other series that we, well, not into those series, but into like the list of other series that we plan on doing. So I have kind of like a queue of different ideas for RimWorld, and so we'll just inject some vanilla challenges into that queue. But you guys will have to let me know what sorts of challenges you'd like to see. So in the comments as well, feel free to suggest some of those now. I'll make note of them, and we'll just kind of add them to the list along with the 40k playthroughs that we had planned, the Star Wars Clone Wars one, and other things like that. That way, we will get to still see the challenges, but RimWorld's not going to completely overtake everything else on the channel. Because if I added that now, we'd be up to 3 Let's Plays, and that is quite a lot. Next, we have Lars de Baker? I don't know. I mean, this guy looks like a baker, so we'll go with Baker. He has a couple of suggestions. Kingdoms and Castles, which I did a first look video on, but I didn't play beyond that. Slay the Spire, which I think is a fairly new release. I'm vaguely familiar with it, but I haven't actually played it myself. and Cities Skylines, which is a city builder game. I'm not sure which of those three earned him the 10 likes, or maybe it was a combination of all three, but when I replied speaking specifically about Kingdoms and Castles, I did get 6 likes, so I think that was like the primary suggestion there that people were fond of. So we can revisit Kingdoms and Castles. That's again sort of a city builder, but I think there is some like base defense mechanics involved as well, if I remember right. You basically build a medieval settlement and then, you know, wall it off, and I think stuff eventually comes and attacks your walls. So yeah, I'm happy to check that out again. Mountain Blade Prophecy of Pendor. I've already played Prophecy of Pendor. I linked the playlist to it here. You can find it in there as well. If you ever want to find specific playlists of mine, you can just go to the playlist tab on my channel page, and they're all there. I only... like, the only thing that isn't in a playlist is stuff that doesn't really belong in a specific playlist, if it's just a one-off video. Or if they're videos for like a playlist that was never finished and didn't get very far. So there was a couple of series that got like 5 episodes, and it was just clear that this isn't going anywhere. So I just didn't bother to take up a, you know, a playlist slot with those, because there's just not enough to justify it. But everything else is in a playlist, and you can see I have a ton of them. I have a lot of playlists. I think I have over 2,000 videos uploaded at this point, so there's a lot of them. But anyways, yes, Prophecy of Pendor, already been done. Doesn't mean we won't revisit it at some point, though it won't be with the same campaign. We'd start over. However, I'm a little bit burnt out on Mountain Blade Warband at the moment, so it will be a while before we return to it. I've just played so much of that game, I got sick of it for a while, and I'm still kind of in that mode, though I considered going back to it recently, but I think I need a little bit more time. Anyway, if we go back to Mountain Blade Warband soon, it will be with a different mod, something that we haven't done yet. I'd like to play a lot of the more popular mods before we go back to something that we've already done. So if you want to see some Prophecy of Pendor, check out that old playlist, because I know most of you have not seen it, because most of you had not subscribed to my channel at that point. So go check that out. But again, Prophecy of Pendor, maybe in the future. Guerrilla Warfare. I was assuming he meant Freeman Guerrilla Warfare. It's the only game I could think of that matches that. Which, if you're not familiar with it, is essentially a... I don't think rip-off is fair, but it's very heavily inspired by Mountain Blade Warband. It's essentially that with modern, you know, military stuff, where you put together a party, but instead of recruiting individual like people for your army, I think you recruit squads. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it looks like they've put a lot of work into it during the early access, and I'm happy to check it out. So that might be something we do more recently, or more soon, because that's something I haven't touched yet, so I definitely don't mind bringing in something fresh like that. Crusader Kings 2 Elder Kings. Again, I've already done it, so it'll be a while before I come back to that. If you want to see some Elder Kings, I have a playlist up right... No, that's the current one. It's in there somewhere, but it's got 111 videos in it. We did several different factions, including 2 different Nord playthroughs. We did Whiterun, which ended pretty early. I think we died as like an infant. Somebody smothered us in our crib. We did Orcs. We did... the Nords in Winterhold, and ended up forming the High Kingdom of Skyrim, and even, you know, doing some conquest beyond that. And there was at least one other, but I don't recall what faction it was. But we've done a lot of that. So we'll see, but I don't mind returning to it at some point. Though Crusader Kings 2 is kind of hit and miss on the channel. It starts off really well, and then inevitably in campaigns it gets to a point where you're kind of just steamrolling and, you know, taking over land, and there's really nothing to be done about it unless you're just going to give up all of your land and start over somehow. But I noticed with Crusader Kings 2 campaigns, they can be very popular when I start them, but then by episode 30 the comment section is ghost town and nobody's watching anymore. So I'm reluctant to get committed to another long Crusader Kings playthrough like that. We'll see, though. Skyrim but modded. I've done Skyrim but modded twice, actually. So I suggest checking out those playthroughs. They're in here somewhere. I did one way back in the very early days of the channel, and then one a lot more recently that was very roleplay heavy. I was actually writing sort of like journal entries from the perspective of one of the companion characters about our main character as sort of this legend. And we played through the entirety of the main story and a lot of the side quests. I didn't get to the DLC, so if at any point we do return to Skyrim, it will probably be for the DLC stuff in that particular playthrough. But it wasn't super popular back then, and it was a ton of work to put out. So maybe. Here was enjoying the Kenshi run. I'm not going to get rid of Kenshi entirely. It's just a lot of work to get those videos out as well, because it often takes me up to like 4 or 5 hours of gameplay to get enough to do like a 30 to 50 minute video, which is just not a very effective use of my time. For something like Battle Brothers, I can sit down, play for maybe 40 minutes, and it gives me a 30-minute video because I, cut the load screens and the travel time. But with Kenshi, I have to basically sit there and work on, grinding out materials and building things and training people for hours just to, be able to put together a video that's going to be maybe a fourth or a fifth of what I actually have to sit through. And that's, again, just not an efficient use of my time. So those videos aren't going to get dropped entirely. I'm just going to do them very infrequently and irregularly. So whenever I sit down and feel like playing some Kenshi, I'll play a little bit and then try to put out a video. And that's for both playthroughs. I'm not going to abandon either one, though. I think for the first one we started, Rook's Ronin, I'm going to try to bring that one to some sort of endpoint, just to sort of call it like end of a season 1 maybe. And that leaves us at some sort of satisfying end, but with the potential to come back and pick it back up again later if we decide to do that. Versus the other playthrough, Ocarina's Wrath. That one I'd like to continue, but again in some sort of reduced capacity, because I really liked the idea for that playthrough. I was really hyped to do it. That's why I started a second Kenshi campaign. But again, we'll see. Another vote for heavily modded Skyrim. Again, check out the playthroughs I've already done. It is very heavily modded and very roleplay heavy. But again, we might come back to it at some point. Then we have a vote for Shogun 2, Total War Shogun 2, or more Mount & Blade Warband. Again, I need a break on Warband. Shogun 2, I would love to play on the channel. I absolutely love Fall of the Samurai. And so, ideally, I'd like to be able to do maybe a Shogun 2 campaign and a Fall of the Samurai campaign at some point. But I will probably not do that until at least we finish the Total War Rome 2 Roman Empire one that we've got going now. I don't want to, like, double or triple up on Total War stuff. We've got another vote for Stellaris. Star Wars campaign. I think they're referring to RimWorld here. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, RimWorld. It's gotta be. Yeah, get off the planet. So yeah, RimWorld. Star Wars campaign. I only say that because we've done Star Wars campaign mod stuff for other games, including Mount & Blade Warband. But this, I think, is RimWorld based on what they're saying. And we do have plans to do more RimWorld in Star Wars, or more Star Wars in RimWorld. Like I mentioned earlier, I basically had a Clone Wars mod mostly made. I couldn't get the droid army faction working, though. I had the droid army units in the game. I had all the textures done and everything. But the faction itself wouldn't work. They wouldn't spawn in the right units, and it was a mess. The game would crash and stuff. So I had to basically put that on the back burner until I had time to work on it. But then the 40k playthrough was taking precedence over that anyways, and that mod was a massive amount of work, and I'm still working on that, though I haven't had time to really touch it. So There's just a lot of modding work to be done, but that is something I eventually plan to do. Oddball suggestion, Dawn of War. I actually did all of Dawn of War 2's main campaign. I actually attempted it once before and it didn't do well. The second time it did a little bit better because I had the Warhammer 40k RimWorld stuff going on at the same time, so there was a lot of Warhammer 40k fans, I think, coming and going to kind of piggyback onto that. I also started doing Chaos Rising, as I mentioned in this reply, but the views really fell off, and so I ended up abandoning it. I think they're referring specifically to the original game, though, and doing one of those campaigns. I really like Dark Crusade. That's one of like my favorite games ever, but it's very dated at this point. And these types of games never do particularly well. I generally get a lot of hype at the beginning, and then everybody kind of moves on when we're midway through a campaign, and then I'm left, you know, with half a campaign to finish and nobody really watching. So we'll see, but that doesn't seem like something that would do fairly well. We have a suggestion for Battle Brothers Legends mod. That's actually something I've been talking about a lot in the Battle Brothers videos. The reason we haven't touched it yet on the channel is because when the Warriors of the North DLC came out, it actually broke the mod. So I think at this point they've fixed it and it is compatible with the new DLC. I don't want to have a third Battle Brothers campaign on the channel though. So what will happen is as soon as we finish the Civil War for our first Battle Brothers campaign, the one that was like Beasts and Exploration, when the Civil War ends for that one, we will end that playthrough. Then we'll go ahead and do the Legends mod, and that will run alongside the Warriors of the North DLC Lone Wolf one. That way we never have more than two, because I think that would be a bit too much. What happened to the Warhammer 40k mod you're working on for RimWorld? It's a lot of work for one person to do. Most mods have a team of people. I was doing it entirely on my own. I don't know if I can like cut in some of this stuff I was doing, though. This person asked me the same question on a different video, well, on a video, not on a post like this, and I actually sent them a link to like a screenshot I did of some of the Space Marines, so you can try to find that. But anyways, I'll try to like cut in a picture or something so you guys can at least see what I'm talking about. Anyways, the long answer is there's a lot of work still to be done on the mod. I'm working on it alone, and I have millions of other things to do that are more immediate concerns, so I haven't really touched it in a long time because I'm effectively working 2 different jobs and then doing YouTube and trying to have some semblance of, you know, like a life outside of that. So it's just something that isn't super high on my list of priorities. And even if it was, it would still probably be falling through the cracks to some degree. I do plan to finish it. It's just a matter of when. And what I'm hoping to do is just find some time to get it into a playable state so that I can maybe finish it as we go along in a playthrough. But even at that point, I'm not sure. Do the Rimhammer 40k playthrough. I assume they're referring to this. Rimhammer is a different mod. I'm not going to use that mod anymore for reasons some of you are probably aware of. It's not worth talking about here. Just whenever that mod is ready, I'll do it. But until the mod is ready, I can't. RTS games, Age of Empires or Warcraft. I have done some RTS on the channel. Like I said, Dawn of War. I played Men of War Assault Squad 2, which not a lot of people watched. I liked that game a lot, but it didn't do very well, so I stopped playing it. I mentioned here, I used to play StarCraft 2 competitively. This was like way back before YouTube. I was in Gold League for a long time, and I almost won my ladder a couple of times. But that game and playing it that intensely really burned me out on RTS games, because effectively I had like a, I don't know if this like translates well outside of like the United States or maybe even my particular area of the United States, but you get these like shopping list, I'm not sure what, they're like pads of paper, but they're very like long, narrow paper, and they're meant to be like shopping listings. Usually like realtors hand them out or like deliver them to your doorstep for whatever reason, like advertising, I guess. I had like a build list for, I always played Terran. I had like a Terran build list written on one of those taped to my monitor. And as long as I played that build list, you know, moderately well, I was going to win like 8 out of 10 matches, unless I was playing somebody else in Gold League that was really good, that was like contending for the next league up. And so I found it kind of boring because, like, yes, I could, you know, kind of vary from that slightly, but I couldn't get super creative with it because that was just the meta at the time, and if I didn't play that Terran meta, I wasn't going to do particularly well. And yeah, it just kind of burned me out. There was no real enjoyment in it, and it just became like kind of a process. So I was like, whatever. I wasn't having fun anymore. Stopped playing StarCraft 2. I think at that point I moved on to like League or something. But that kind of ruined RTS for me. The same way that playing Counter-Strike competitively ruined FPS for me. That was way, way earlier though. I played Counter-Strike competitively when I was in like middle school. This was back when cyber cafes were a thing. And I was on like the cyber cafes sort of clan, and we would, you know, go play in small tournaments for money. But that was like Counter-Strike, God, like 1.4 or something. This was before Counter-Strike Source. Counter-Strike Source, I think, is about when I stopped playing Counter-Strike. And again, it kind of just ruined FPS for me because I had to take it so seriously if I wanted to remain competitive that all the fun got sucked out of it and it just wasn't enjoyable anymore. Hearts of Iron 4. I did Hearts of Iron 4 briefly. We tried to do something as Poland, and I had set up like very specific thing I was trying to do, and it failed, and so we just kind of abandoned it. Hearts of Iron 4 is okay though. It's not my favorite Hearts of Iron game. 3 was awful, but I really like Hearts of Iron 2. Hearts of Iron 2 is like one of my favorite. It probably got me into Paradox games actually. But we could maybe do another Hearts of Iron 4 playthrough at some point. And then they also suggest Men of War. Again, I have played that. Just apparently nobody's aware of it. So check out those playthroughs, or check out those playlists if you want to see those games, because I have played them. Revisiting Deathwatch. I don't know if anybody even is aware of what that game is or that I played it. But Deathwatch was I want to say like a tablet game that was ported to PC. It is turn-based tactical, you know, RPG kind of stuff, where you play as Deathwatch Marines, which, if you're not familiar with 40k lore, they are basically Marines kind of pulled from various different chapters to be like an elite fighting force against typically aliens of different stuff. They often run up against Tyranids. In that game, you're pretty much exclusively fighting Tyranids. I think you are exclusively fighting Tyranids. Anyways, turn-based tactical game with Space Marines. We played through it in its entirety way, way, way back. That playlist is up as well. I don't think I'll bother playing it again. It just wasn't that popular, and I don't think it'd be popular now. I don't think a lot of people even know that that game exists. No More Room in Hell with subscribers playing with you. I do not know what that game is. I looked it up, and it was like a survival shooter type thing. So probably not, but subscribers playing with me, that's something I'd love to do. I just can't. My schedule is very erratic, as you might have imagined from what I mentioned before, doing all the different work projects and stuff. So it's something, again, I'd love to do. I just don't think will ever be possible. Like, I'm recording this right now at 1:26 a.m. and that's Pacific Standard Time. So for most of the world, it's in the very early hours of the morning right now. And this is like the only time I really am able to do this sort of stuff. So unless there are people who are able to like jump into a multiplayer game with me at this time of night, and yeah, I just don't think it would work. I'd love to do it. I've been trying to incorporate subscribers into regular Let's Plays in some way, through, you know, role playing and stuff like that. I also had an idea for maybe a Total War campaign where I appoint trusted subscribers as generals and they tell me what to do with the armies, versus me calling all the shots. But even that has issues because I cannot really wait to record stuff long enough to factor all that in necessarily. Generally, I record stuff in batches, which is what most YouTubers do because it's the most efficient way to get content out. So if I sat down and recorded one video for one game and then moved on to the next game, and then the next game, the time I would lose between, you know, switching back and forth between all the different games and stuff, it's a lot of time and it adds up. So generally what most YouTubers do is, you know, like if I'm going to record Battle Brothers, I'll sit down and I'll record Battle Brothers for the week, or sometimes even for 2 weeks, just because, you know, it's like what, 4 videos. I can play that in like two hours, one sitting, and then I don't have to worry about recording that series of Battle Brothers for a little while, and I can move on to the next series and just record all that the next day. That's a lot more efficient, and so that puts me like 2 weeks ahead of you guys sometimes. Therefore, if I was trying to like incorporate your strategies into a Total War game, I would have to see all the comments before I recorded the next video, and that can be very, very slow to do and makes it very hard to get the videos out on time. Arma with the Warhammer 40k mod. I am done with Arma. I loved that game. The first video I ever did was an Arma modding tutorial, but I put so much time and effort into like making that game enjoyable and never really got any return out of it. At one point we tried to build an Arma community on the channel and it just fell apart. I couldn't get anybody to really help me, whether it was building missions or running the community or modding stuff. I ended up having to do it all on my own, and it just all fell apart. So not something I'm really interested in anymore, unfortunately. I've just been burned too many times with it. But Arma's a cool game, and I've seen some of the 40k stuff for it. It looks a little hokey, but still, to get it to work in that game is pretty impressive. So props to the mod authors on that, but I don't think we'll ever do it here. Do what you want, man. Yeah, I mean, that's what I try to do, but it doesn't always work. So they also suggest, I'm assuming Apex Legends. I will probably never play a Battle Royale game ever. Counter-Strike, Global Operations. Again, Counter-Strike's kind of been ruined for me at this point. Europa Universalis 4, which is another Paradox game. That game is like so intense. I've tried to relearn how to play it a couple times, and I just get so lost that it's really discouraging to like look at all the different menus and stuff. Imperator Rome, maybe. I actually do have Imperator Rome, and I do like it. I'm not great at it yet, but it is a little bit more user-friendly than Europa Universalis. And I do like the setting better. So it's something we might visit, but given that he was the only one that suggested it, or I say he, I have no idea, they suggested it and nobody else did, I don't know if it's going to be all that popular. Oh, these are not in proper order. That's weird. So we've got 9 likes here for Hearts of Iron 4, Old World Blues. Old World Blues is the Fallout mod for Hearts of Iron 4. Maybe, if we go back to Hearts of Iron 4, it probably would be something modded. I like the World War I mod a lot. I haven't played this one, but I'm aware of it. They suggest like She or the Brotherhood, which are like less commonly played factions. I really like NCR though. I don't know how NCR is in that mod, if it even exists. I imagine it would. But I really like NCR as a faction. So I would probably play NCR, though it sounds like maybe a lot of people have. I don't know. I am 3 Firebird is saying, wow, you're on YouTube at odd hours. Yeah, that's what I just said. I think when I posted this, it was like 3 a.m. or something. Blah, blah, blah. I think ultimately their suggestion was just like, you know, play what I enjoy and people will come. I wish that was always true. It is somewhat true. Obviously you need to have passion for a series if you're going to be putting out videos for it, because otherwise it just won't be as interesting. But at the same time, there's been plenty of series I've had a lot of passion for that just floundered immediately. So there's a balance, and that's why I try to get your guys' opinions so that we can meet somewhere in the middle and I can play things you guys want to see that I'm really passionate about. That's the whole point. But I do appreciate the thoughts there. So Jurassic Rimworld, I'm having a blast with that series. That's another example, though. This one, that RimWorld series is not done great, but I'm having a ton of fun with it. Whereas the RimWorld Wasteland playthrough is immensely popular. The Fallout playthrough is immensely popular, and I am absolutely hating it. It's such a grind because it's a mountain base, and mountain bases are always a grind. But even more so because it's in an irradiated wasteland that we can't leave the base, really. So it's just not fun. But people seem to really enjoy it, versus in Jurassic RimWorld we're building like a Jurassic World type kind of theme park hotel resort thing with dinosaur enclosures. And it's a lot of fun because I can be really creative and it's all open, but it's not doing nearly as well. Kingdom Come Deliverance, that's a lot of fun too. I've tried to make that like really cinematic. If you've watched other Kingdom Come Deliverance playthroughs and all of the stuff, you know, like running around and whatnot kind of turned you off, check this one out because I've cut all of the travel. So a lot of times what'll happen is the game will send you back and forth to talk to different people, and I've basically just cut the conversations back to back rather than showing you my journey to each person. So I've really expedited the whole process. We're through most of the story now in, I think, 23 episodes. We've got a little bit of the story to go, and we haven't touched the DLCs yet, so we'll probably get into the 30s in terms of episodes. But I've seen other YouTubers playthroughs that, you know, they just kind of did long form stuff. They didn't really cut anything, and they're into the hundreds of episodes to finish that game. We'll probably finish the main story at about 28, 29, and with the DLCs and stuff we'll probably get into like the mid 30s. But it is a very I don't want to say truncated, because all of the real content is there. I'm making sure you guys see and, you know, get a taste for everything. But I'm not leaving in any of the tedium, like riding around on horseback trying to find stuff, unless the search is kind of part of the story. So, again, if you've been turned off to other Kingdom Come playthroughs, check that one out, because I think you will maybe change your mind. But it's a very cool game, so if you haven't had any interest in it before, check it out, because it is very, well, I guess it's a little bit cinematic, and there's a very interesting and intriguing story there. And I've tried to really highlight that over everything else. Okay, what else? Automation BeamNG. That's like car stuff. I've never done anything car related on here. Not that I don't like cars, but I feel like racing games are just not really something that would fit on here. XCOM. I actually did do XCOM. It's right here. XCOM 2 War of the Chosen. We didn't finish it, but I might finish it at some point. And that's very heavily modded too. So if you want XCOM, there it is. What else? Star Wars Battlefront. Only if it's the originals. I'm not going to play any of the new EA crap. And NHL 19. I actually did a FIFA 18 video. I should see how many views that has at this point. But I'm guessing not great. I don't even really like soccer, but there's something about FIFA games I just kind of enjoy, and so one day I was just kind of playing that and was like, oh, maybe I'll make a video of it and just see what happens. And I don't think it did well. It probably still hasn't done well. But I do enjoy sports games. I actually have Madden on PC now that they finally are doing Madden on PC again. Though I waited to buy it when it was on sale. And I think it's a year old at this point. So there's probably already a new one. Or there very soon will be. But yeah, I do like sports games. It's, again, something that doesn't really fit. But I did play a lot of sports. So, like, especially with football stuff, I played all through childhood. Through, like, Pop Warner, which, again, if you're not from the United States, probably means nothing to you. Then into high school and even a bit in junior college, so I know American football really well. I also played basketball pretty far up. Never hockey, though, but NHL 19, well, I don't know about 19, but the NHL games are actually a lot of fun. I like to be very aggressive and, like, check people all the time. But again, I don't think sports stuff is going to do well on here. I'm sad to say. So, what else? Continue the Ireland playthrough for Anno Domini. Again, a little bit burnt out on Warband at the moment. That playthrough ended mostly because I was just at a loss for how to continue it. We started as just like a very minor lord in Ireland and ended up working our way up to a very prominent lord, kicking off a civil war, conquering Ireland and becoming king. And then we were at war with England for a while and kind of just ran out of specific goals. Like, we could try to conquer the British Isles like they suggest, but it didn't really feel right because we were very Irish faction, very Irish character, and so, you know, ruling over all the British Isles, we weren't really that type of character. And so it just didn't really fit. So that's why I ultimately just kind of ended it, because I didn't know what else to do. Darkest Dungeon. I used to like Darkest Dungeon. I haven't played it in a long time. I feel like I'm terrible at it, though, and it probably wouldn't be enjoyable to watch. But maybe if enough people are interested. What else? So this person agrees with Firebird. Just, you know, kind of play what I enjoy. Ancient Rim. Yeah, that's something we're going to do for sure. That's already on the list. Ancient Rim is a mod that basically gets rid of all the sci-fi and even modern tech in the game and adds in some like Roman and Greek stuff. And I think it would be fun to revisit a more low-tech setting in RimWorld. The only other time we did that was with the Skyrim playthrough, which was similar but also had magic. And I was very dumb in the way I set that up because it was Skyrim. I put it in a very, very cold climate and not really considering the fact that I wasn't going to have any of the stuff I normally rely on for growing food in RimWorld. So we were, you know, reliant completely on just plots of land with nothing else to grow our food. And the map was basically frozen over for like 90% of that campaign or playthrough. And so we were just like starving the entire time, and I had to micromanage food so much it just became like me pulling my hair out and screaming at pawns because they were doing stupid stuff with food that they shouldn't have been doing. Like, they were eating raw potatoes rather than cooking them and making them stretch further because they were so hungry, and it just was absolute hell. So we got one particularly nasty raid that killed a couple of main characters, and I just said, well, let's just pretend like this was the end and move on. But I'd like to go back using that as a learning experience, maybe picking a better climate for something, you know, where we don't have electricity or hydroponics or greenhouses, though we could probably get away with greenhouses. Anyway, that is something I'd like to revisit, and it kind of is already in the works. So we'll see. Mountain Blade, again, need a bit more time, but that is, you know, a game that was a very large part of the channel and probably will be again at some point. Though, if Bannerlord ever comes out, maybe we'll play some Bannerlord instead. Total War Attila or Three Kingdoms. I like Total War Attila a lot. I'm just not sure what campaign we would play, and the last campaign I did for Attila actually did pretty well. We played as Western Roman Empire, which is like the hardest campaign in any Total War game ever. And that's not just my words. I think like, was it Legend of Total War did a video, and a couple of different YouTubers that are strictly Total War YouTubers pretty much agree that the Western Roman Empire campaign for Attila and for the original Rome Barbarian Invasion expansion are like tied for the two most difficult campaigns in any game ever, or in any Total War game ever. And we did pretty well. I was playing it on very hard, so the second highest difficulty. I don't like Legendary because it just starts penalizing you for ridiculous things. Like, I think you just get like a flat -20 to public order for no reason other than difficulty. But we were fine right up to the end of that campaign. We never lost any territory. We actually gained territory. We hadn't killed Attila, but the reason we ended that campaign is because of the whole Red Shell spyware controversy. So Creative Assembly, the developers, or potentially Sega, the publisher, I don't know who was making that decision, but they were using a program called Red Shell that was like a DLL that got installed in your game files that basically was kind of monitoring certain stuff you did on your internet browser to see if the ads they were using contributed to your purchase of the game. and that's kind of not cool, especially without your permission. It wasn't in the EULA or anything like that they were doing it, though I think they did add it later, but ultimately people were really pissed off and they removed it. And so for a long time I didn't play any Total War because of that, but I felt like that was unnecessary because they did eventually, and I say eventually, it happened relatively quick, they caved to the community and pulled it. So it was like, whatever, you know, they got rid of it. It's not a big deal. But I was a little bit pissed off at the company for a while and felt like I shouldn't be promoting their games. But, you know, ultimately, nobody cares anymore. Nobody even remembers other than me, probably. So whatever. We're playing Total War Rome 2 right now, doing the main Roman campaign, which we've never done, actually. And I felt like it was kind of a necessity. So check that out if you want some Total War. I would be happy to return to Attila at some point, though, and I did do a video for Three Kingdoms, just showing off a campaign I was playing in my own time, which I haven't really progressed at all since, because I haven't had any time. But when Three Kingdoms came out, I did another post like this one, asking if we should play it on the channel, and the answer was unanimously no, so that's why I haven't played it on the channel. But that could change. I'd also really like to go back and do, I can't remember what it's called, for like the Warhammer, Total War Warhammer plus Warhammer 2. You have both. It's like Ageless Empire. No, that's a different game. I don't remember what it's called, but basically it puts the maps together and lets you play as any faction on both maps. I'd like to do an Empire playthrough on that campaign and try to conquer the whole world as the, you know, the Sigmarites or the Human Empire, Karl Franz, all that. Just because I'll probably never get a Total War Pike and Shot game, but that faction is the closest I'll probably ever have, because they do have pikes and they do have shot, and you can sort of play them like that. There is artillery, the cannons as well, so I'd love to do something like that, but we'll see. Because I did do Total War Warhammer when it released, and that did pretty poorly as well. More RimWorld. Can definitely do more RimWorld. It's going to be on the channel forever, probably. Though I'm trying to only do like 2 playthroughs at a time, just so I don't overload it. They're suggesting medieval only. If you want medieval only, check out the Skyrim one. That's basically what it is. There is magic in it, but we were Nords, so there wasn't a whole lot of magic involved. I don't think we ever had a mage or anything like that, though we had a couple people with the ability to use magic. We just never trained them or got very far training them. We did run up against some people that used magic, but even then it was pretty minimal. So if medieval only, check out the Skyrim one or wait for the Roman/Greek one. Monster Hunter World. I've never played a Monster Hunter game, and I probably won't start now. Not that I have anything against them. It's never really been my thing. Also, yeah, it says cut out some of the grinding. I'm trying to avoid games where I have to cut out grinding because I don't have time to grind. So I'd like games where I can sit down and play and use everything I do as footage. That would be preferable. Warhammer 40k Mechanicus. We were playing that and we didn't finish because nobody was watching anymore. So go back and watch those videos, and if they start spiking in views, I'll start playing again. Outward, I feel bad because I was given a press copy of the game and I played a little bit and just wasn't into it. But part of it was just kind of vague what I was supposed to do, and I don't know. I'd probably go back and check it out at some point. Drakensang River of Time, I'm not familiar with that, but that's a very RPG sounding name. And Inquisitor Martyr for Warhammer 40k. I did do a little bit of that on the channel. I actually had access to it before it released, and it was okay. I wasn't a huge fan. And then they also suggest Mass Effect. I talked about doing a playthrough of all 3 Mass Effect games at some point, but that would be an incredible commitment on everybody's part, because that's a lot of episodes to produce and a lot of episodes to sit through. And it's, again, I feel like something where I would start with a lot of hype, and then maybe we finish the first game and start the second, and then it starts to fall off, and then by the time we start the 3rd game, nobody's watching anymore. So I'm very wary of doing anything that's that much of a commitment, because I don't think either end of you know, this relationship is really ready for that. But we'll see. I'm not going to rule it out because it is something I talked about doing before. Crusader Kings 2 multiplayer. Again, multiplayer stuff is a problem because I have to record at very odd times. But I do agree the AI is just not really a challenge in that game. I mean, it is initially, and then you get to a point where the AI can't touch you, and that's when things kind of lose interest. Crusader Kings 2 After the End, Crusader Kings 2 Elder Kings. Another one for Darkest Dungeon, Hearts of Iron 4. Seeing a lot of repeats of these. Hearts of Iron 4, Battletech. Nobody watched the original Battletech I did, so I don't really want to go back. I do have all the expansions though. They keep giving me codes. I have no reason to make videos for them because when I played the original campaign, I don't think we ever finished because I was getting like no views on the videos after a while. Total War Warhammer 2, I just talked about that, so maybe I'd like to do it, but it didn't seem to get a lot of attention here. Something different like Styx. I wasn't like, I've seen gameplay of that and it didn't catch my interest at all. So I don't think I'd play something like Styx, but I would potentially play an RPG I found interesting. I just don't know that it would be that one. Prisno mod for Mount & Blade, maybe. I'm more interested in like Nova Atis and some of the others that we haven't touched yet. I haven't done Prisno, but that one never really caught my eye. Mount & Blade, Stellaris, Skyrim, Civ. Done all of these, and I addressed them earlier, so I won't mention them again. Civ. Civ was another game that had that Red Shell spyware in it. Nobody really seems to care about that anymore. I have Civ 6, I think. I don't remember if I uninstalled it or not. It's okay. I guess we'll see. Another mention for Freeman Guerrilla Warfare. I will do Freeman Guerrilla Warfare for sure. And it'll probably be relatively soon because I don't need to worry about modding that or anything. I don't even know if mods exist for it. Let me see. Oh, I don't have it on Steam yet, so I can't look. But anyway, we will do it. And probably within the next couple weeks. More Mount & Blade, more Kenshi. Let's see. Games you enjoy. Try out new games that can be modded. Mods kill me though. RimWorld has been such an absolute headache because of all the modding problems. But yeah, that's kind of my whole shtick, is like modding the hell out of stuff until it breaks. So if I can find more games like that, I will. Assassin's Creed franchise. I'm not that interested. I like, the first one was okay. I remember playing it when it came out. I didn't play any of the others up until Black Flag. I loved Black Flag, but I didn't really... I may have finished the story, but I honestly didn't care what was happening. I was far more interested in just fighting ship battles and going after like the legendary ships that were out there. And then I played Odyssey, but never finished it because I just didn't... No, I think I did finish it. It wasn't that memorable. I like the setting. I love, you know, Greek stuff, ancient Greece, but ultimately it just wasn't that great. What do you think about the rumors for next Assassin's Creed set in Viking era? If I were more excited about the games, I feel like that would be exciting. I like Viking era stuff. I just don't care about Assassin's Creed really. And so I guess I'm not that hyped about it. And it seems like they're kind of running out of ideas. And they're just picking interesting historical settings to kind of compensate for that. But, you know, if you enjoy them, great. And if you're excited about that setting, all the better. Glorious Companions. Oh, right, this is actually the developer for Glorious Companions. He's sent me a key for the new version. I'll have to check that out. But we did do a first look video on that already. I probably won't do like an extended Let's Play, but we'll check it out again now that they've added a bunch of stuff. Because it was pretty much just a tech demo when we first saw it. It was early alpha, and so it was playable, but there was like 2 factions and not a lot to do. So we'll come back and look at it now when there's more stuff. Rome 1, I assume they mean Total War Rome 1. I tried playing it with the Lord of the Rings mod, and it just doesn't run well on my computer. I can run the like Total War Rome 2 or Attila on like max settings while recording at 60 FPS in 1080p, and I don't really have performance issues unless I have like 6,000 man armies fighting each other. But when I try to run Rome 1, it is just absolute garbage. Though Total War Medieval 2 seems to run fine on my PC, so maybe I'll do some Medieval 2 if you guys want to see old school Total War. There is a Skyrim, well, I shouldn't say Skyrim, there's an Elder Scrolls mod for Medieval 2 that is out right now, and it's set during the Oblivion Crisis, so basically the setting of Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. And at some point in the near future, they are putting out another campaign. So basically when you go into the campaigns, you have the option of playing either one of these, but they're going to do one during the time period of Skyrim. So I would love to play both of those, especially in the Skyrim campaign, maybe playing as the Stormcloaks and trying to create an independent Skyrim, and maybe going a little bit beyond that even. And then in the Oblivion one, we could play as like the Imperials and try to reestablish Imperial control and deal with the whole Oblivion Crisis thing, or we could play as the Kingdom of Skyrim and try to break away and do other stuff, or any of the other factions. I really like the Nords, so I always gravitate to them, but other factions are cool too. Cold War Let's Play for RimWorld. I don't know like what I would do with that. Like, you would just have guys dressed in a particular way. I mean, I guess it's not that far off the sort of like steampunk World War I we did. Maybe. I'd have to see, first of all, if there was mods for that time period. Otherwise, I'd have to make them, and I'm reluctant to make any more stuff for RimWorld. Finish XCOM 2. If enough people are interested, I will. Sim Settlements Conquer playthrough in Fallout 4. I actually had, and I spent a lot of time setting this up, but never followed through with it. I had a big Fallout 4 playthrough idea that I set up that was essentially Fallout 4 Zombie Apocalypse. There is a mod that turns most of the enemies in the game into ghouls and makes the ghouls look a little bit more decayed. And there's another mod that turns the wasteland into something a lot more green, so it doesn't look like there was a nuclear apocalypse. It looks like it could have been a zombie apocalypse. And I was going to do something like that with, a lot of role play and stuff, but it just never really panned out. Fallout 4 is a real pain in the ass to do modding stuff with, now that like the Bethesda.net stuff exists. And every time they put out, the Creation Club crap as well, I think it keeps breaking my modding list, or my mod list back when I was doing this, so I gave up. But that was an idea I had, and it's something we could maybe revisit in the future. And I didn't know you could conquer settlements with sim settlements. I'm aware of sim settlements, but last I saw it basically just had the settlers of your settlements sort of build them up passively without you having to do all the work all the time. But that's cool if you can conquer them. That would definitely add something to that sort of zombie apocalypse playthrough. We'll see, I guess. Again, this all just depends on what you guys want to see. Ruse, it's RTS World War II game. I've never heard of it. There wasn't a whole lot of love for this comment, so I don't know. Still waiting for RimWorld 40k Space Marine. Yeah, me too. I just gotta finish the damn mod. XCOM UFO Defense. So they're talking about the original. Or wait. I don't remember if XCOM UFO Defense is the original or the second one. But the older XCOM games. I don't know. The graphics are pretty rough these days. But this does kind of relate to something else I was thinking about. So I wanted to start doing a series called like Throwback Thursdays. And it'd be obviously just on Thursdays. But we'd play a throwback game, so something really old. We can use emulators, maybe. I can go through my library of like old Super Nintendo games, PlayStation 1 games, PlayStation 2 games, all that stuff. But we would play through like some old school games, maybe do some like OG Age of Empires, or I guess in this case like XCOM UFO Defense. Things like that, but we'd go back and revisit like really, really old games. Because a lot of them you can get for quite cheap on GOG now. And they basically run through an emulator to make them, you know, a little bit more modern PC friendly. But even for stuff that isn't on there, we could try to find through, you know, emulators and ROMs, though I'd have to be careful about that. I don't think anybody cares at this point, but whatever. It's something we could try. I would love to see that minimum playthrough on RimWorld. I probably will never go back to Fallout on RimWorld. Not to say that like we'll never finish the one that we've started. We may go back to that campaign for season 2 or potentially, you know, season 3 or whatever it takes to get to a natural end in that one. But there's so many other things that could be done in RimWorld. I'm not going to do Fallout twice. The only reason I do Warhammer 40k more than once is because Warhammer 40k is like a big theme on my channel. My channel name is actually a reference to Warhammer 40k. Astartes is part of the formal name for the Space Marines, which is Adeptus Astartes, and that's where I got it from. So Warhammer 40k is kind of a special case. Star Wars also a little bit of a special case because Star Wars is like my first major like fandom that I was a part of. Absolutely love Star Wars, though the new stuff really puts me off the whole thing. And then I don't know if there's any others. Elder Scrolls I like a lot, but I don't know that I like it as much as either of those two things. And then of course there's, you know, like the Lord of the Rings franchise and whatnot. But yeah, anyways, I probably won't do a second Fallout playthrough for RimWorld. If I do, it probably wouldn't be Minutemen. It wouldn't really make sense. No, I guess it could work, but it would probably be like Brotherhood of Steel or something. But even then, I don't know that we ever would. Warhammer mod for Mountain Blade. I did that one. We played as Chaos briefly, and again, it just ended prematurely because nobody was watching. But yeah, I do have the playlist up somewhere. We played as the Chaos faction briefly. Total War Warhammer 2 with the Total War Warhammer expansion basically lets you play it. Yeah, I talked about this already. It puts the map from the first and the second game together in one big map and lets you play as any of the factions on there, able to conquer both maps. I'd really love to do this at some point, and again, I'd like to play as the Empire, just because we can have our own... The Empire in Warhammer isn't the same as the Empire in Warhammer 40k. There are some similar themes, but I'd love to kind of play it as if they were the same. So the Emperor of the Warhammer Empire is not a god emperor, he's just a man, though a pretty badass man. And they worship a god called Sigmar, versus in 40k, the god emperor of mankind is a god emperor, though he doesn't want to be called a god. He basically is. But anyways, I'd love to basically just go nuts with like bringing a little bit of 40k mentality into Warhammer Fantasy and just completely wiping the map clean of all the Xenos and heretics in Fantasy, and getting to do a little bit of pike and shot action in the process. But we'll see. We'll see. Battle Brothers modded playthrough. They were yeah. So Carl here caught the mention of the Legend stuff I was talking about in the 2 different Let's Plays. Definitely going to do that. It's just a matter of when it's possible. StarCraft 2? No, not anymore. That's funny that you mentioned laddering on StarCraft 2. Not anymore. Never again. Playing the OG StarCraft. Maybe as part of that Throwback Thursday thing if we end up doing it, because that's a pretty old game at this point. I appreciate the compliments here. Thank you for that. Factorio? That just seems like a game I would get very like anal about. Anytime I play city builders or things like that where you have to build like very, you know, I'm not sure what the word is. Very specific stuff. We'll just go with stuff. I get very particular and very like the perfectionist in me comes out, and it becomes less fun and more like I have to make this perfect, and I don't know that that's going to translate well to videos. Endless Legend. I played that a lot back when it came out, and I haven't really played it since, but it wasn't a bad game. I found the universe kind of bland. It didn't really, you know, draw me in at all. But it's a cool game. It's pretty standard 4X, but it does the 4X formula well. More Mountain Blade, yeah. We'll go back at some point. I'm still sick of it. Modded XCOM 2 War of the Chosen. Yeah, I have this exactly right here. So XCOM 2 War of the Chosen, completely overhauled with mods. I had everything set up to be like more real world. So in XCOM, it's a little bit future-y. Everything's kind of cartoony. I had a bunch of mods that added stuff from like Battlefield and Call of Duty to make it look very modern, realistic, tactical. And all of the characters, with the exception of, I think, like the first handful that we started with, were viewer created, and there was a lot of characters. Actually, I think even most of the originals were Patreon or patron created. I reached out to the Patreon patrons and let them create characters and had them in before we started. My character was the only one that I created. Everybody else. So yeah, if you want this, go watch that right there. It's not finished. We might finish it at some point, but we're well into the campaign. Total War 1212 AD. I don't think there's a campaign out for that yet. I think it's just custom battles. I check in every once in a while. There is a Total War 1220 AD mod where the guy basically, I think they gave, the people who made this one gave him permission to use their stuff, and he basically just slapped together a campaign, so it's not as fleshed out as what they're trying to do. But then I think there was issues because he was like making money off of it, and they said very specifically he wasn't supposed to be doing that. So there was some stuff going on with it where I didn't want to be like, hey, check out this mod where this guy's, you know, basically stealing assets. But we'll see. If anybody puts out a really good medieval mod for Attila or Rome 2, I don't really care which, I will gladly play it. Battle Brothers going. Yes, Battle Brothers is not going anywhere. We've got the 2 campaigns going now. We're going to get the longer running one to some natural ending, so probably whenever the Civil War ends. Then we're going to end that one, and we're going to start the Legends mod one, and then meanwhile the Warriors of the North Lone Wolf playthrough will continue on through that. Astroneer single player. Can't really play with friends. I don't really have any friends that game, so that's always kind of an issue. Obviously there's like the few people I do know on Steam, and then the Patreon patrons and stuff like that, but timing is just always a problem. Organizing this stuff is always a problem. Single player, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of interest, other than this one comment. It's the only one I've seen. But I do like stuff like that where you can build and be creative. Well, you want to play more RimWorld and Battle Brothers, don't worry, there's going to be plenty of that. Try Stellaris. Okay, so another vote for Stellaris too. Shorter games, yeah. Pendant Blade gets it. Shorter games. Katana Zero is not something I've heard of. Also The Sims. I actually thought about doing The Sims at one point, because I do kind of, like in a weird way, enjoy The Sims. But I don't know how interesting that would be, and there's a lot of channels that only play The Sims, so I'd be competing with that crowd. But maybe if enough people want to see The Sims, I'd be happy to play it. Mech Warrior Online. I haven't played that. I looked it up when I saw this comment though, and it looked pretty cool. But again, Battletech is kind of similar, and Battletech did really poorly. Endless Space 2, with Stellaris, I don't think we need another Space 4X game. But after we're done with Stellaris, maybe. Another vote for Hearts of Iron 4. They're suggesting the Kaiserreich mod. I don't remember which one that is. But another modded Hearts of Iron 4. Stellaris, possibly with mods and DLCs, Mountain Blade Warband, Men of War Assault Squad 2. But they're suggesting it with mods. I just did like the vanilla stuff. Though there was mods, like quality of life and realism mods I was running, but I was just doing the basic, like historical battles. So you can check that out. It is in here somewhere. I don't know if there's a playlist for it because there wasn't a ton of videos, but there are still a handful of them that you can check out. They're suggesting the Star Wars mod. Again, if people are willing to watch Men of War Assault Squad 2, I'm happy to do whatever with it, but it didn't seem like people were. Pit People. I don't know that I've heard of that one. You think it's my imagination? No, it's my my YouTube analytics that are telling me this. Okay, Mountain Blade, Skyrim, Total War, Age of Empires 2. Oh, that would be cool if they put out a definitive edition. I'd like to see that. But I'd like to go back to the old Age of Empires 2. Play it in its, you know, original state. That again would be something we would do as part of like a Throwback Thursday thing. When I was originally planning that series though, I was thinking more like side-scrolling beat-em-ups from the Super Nintendo days. There was like a Power Rangers and a Spider-Man one I had on Super Nintendo that I absolutely loved as a kid. And so those were like what I was thinking about when I was first planning that series. But there are, you know, a lot of really great like strategy games from the early 2000s, like the peak of strategy basically, that I would love to play that are just so dated now it's kind of hard to do a regular series on, but if it was once a week it's not that big a deal. Request for Minecraft. Interestingly enough, I have done Minecraft twice. I don't know if it's in here somewhere, but I did an Ancient Warfare one where we basically built super badass castles that NPCs kind of ran around and kept running. And even fought some battles, I think. I spawned in like enemies at some point to like raid our bases, raid our castles or whatever. And I had like my own NPC army to help me fight. And then we tried very briefly to do like a survival one, and that didn't do well, so that was the last time I tried Minecraft. If you're into subscriber interaction, I am very into subscriber interaction. It's just tough to facilitate because, again, I can't do the multiplayer stuff. So I do try to incorporate it through roleplay and custom characters in the comments, but even that can be hard because I have to record so far in advance. Fallout mod for Hearts of Iron. Besiege. I didn't find Besiege particularly interesting. It's cool. You build little siege engines and do challenges, but that's really all there is to it. Trying some games in beta. We're still going to be doing plenty of that. I haven't stopped doing first look videos. There just hasn't really been any games that I've gotten codes for that have caught my eye. I get multiple emails a day asking me to check stuff out, but given how limited my time is and how many of those I get, I just give them a quick look. If it doesn't immediately hook me, I just keep scrolling. So we will continue doing first look videos, but it's only going to be stuff that I really, really am excited for. One of which was Glorious Companions that we saw up there. I'll revisit that now that it's been updated significantly. Try Stardew Valley. I have tried Stardew Valley. I've actually played... I don't know that you can play all the way through Stardew Valley, but I've been like well through a playthrough of Stardew Valley. Not on the channel though. I just don't know how interesting that would be because there's not a lot to do with it. It's not like Stellaris where after we play through vanilla Stellaris, I can overhaul it into like a Warhammer 40k game or a Star Wars game or something like that. Stardew Valley is just going to be Stardew Valley, and plenty of people, basically everybody has done a Stardew Valley playthrough, so I don't know how mine would really be unique or interesting enough to bring in people to watch it who are already familiar with that game. KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic. That would be awesome. Again, maybe a game that would be a candidate for like a Throwback Thursday thing, because that is a bit dated now. But those games are fantastic. I've technically never finished the first one because I ran into a game-breaking bug in my copy of it very late in the playthrough, and I couldn't get by it, so that was just the last I could play it. Even reinstalling didn't fix it, so I had to just give up. And I think I ended up watching the ending on YouTube. But I wouldn't mind revisiting that, and I'll have to make sure I get a different copy of the game, or, you know, make sure mine works. And then we could play KOTOR 2 after that. I used to really, really enjoy not Knights of the Old Republic. Is it just Star Wars The Old Republic? Yeah, the MMO. The BioWare MMO. I played a ton of that. Pretty much right before I started the YouTube channel. I stopped playing about a year before I started YouTube. And I put a ton of time into that game. I played through most of the different character campaigns. I was somewhat active in like the PvP stuff. My favorite character was, I want to say it was a Jedi Shadow, who I built as like an off-tank kind of hybrid DPS. So he could dish out damage and soak damage pretty well, depending on what stance I had him in. And he was an absolute beast in PvP. I remember a round where I went like over 100 kills with no deaths because I had decent tanks around me. And so I was just in my DPS stance, picking people off, and then if I got, you know, a little bit too far stuck in, I would switch to my tank stance until I was able to get out of there. But I had a lot of fun with that game. That was probably the most I've ever played of any MMO, and by far the most immersed I've gotten into like an online game, because the stories were actually very well done for the different characters. You could play, I mean, I don't know how viable it is, but the stories were good enough that you could play them as a single player game. There was stuff that you really needed help for to a degree, unless you were like really over leveled for it. But it was kind of designed in such a way that you would be playing with other people, because it is an MMO. And it has all the typical MMO stuff, but the characters have their own main stories that were very much like Knights of the Old Republic in a way. And they were very good. I liked them, especially the best one in my opinion was the Sith Sorcerer. That one was very cool, especially if you played it as a light side Sith Sorcerer, because there was a lot of interesting moral stuff happening where at some point you capture a Jedi Padawan to sort of make her your apprentice, I guess, but sort of like an unwilling one. And she's basically like calling you out for being evil and Sith and stuff. And your character starts as a slave in that playthrough. They're basically enslaving the Sith are any Force sensitive they can get their hands on. And then the Sith training is essentially the strong survive. It's very like Spartan in a way. The Agoge. I butchered that. Anyways, the Agoge? That sounds more correct. They basically pit all the Force sensitive slaves against each other, and the ones that are the most powerful survive and become the strongest Sith. So she's like calling you out for, you know, being evil and Sith and all that stuff, and your character is basically like, look, I was a slave, like it was either this or die. And it's a very interesting conversation. There's a few of them in that playthrough. But of course that's only really applicable if you're playing that light side character. If you were a dark side Sith, well, it was like, well, you know, I am a bad guy. What are you gonna do about it? So yeah, but there's a lot of interesting potential in there. So that's all the comments, and this video is incredibly long at this point. It's over an hour. So this has basically become a podcast. But hopefully that answers all of your questions. So for those of you who've sat around for this long, I don't even know if I'm gonna, I guess I'll upload it, who cares, right? Anyway, for those of you who made it this far, Stellaris is a shoo-in for sure, but I would like to hear from you guys what sort of Stellaris playthrough you would like to see. We can do more or less vanilla first and then completely overhaul it with mods after, or we can just go straight to the overhaul and then do a different overhaul after, or something vanilla after. Whatever order you guys want, I just would like to know what people are hoping to see from Stellaris. RimWorld, all the ideas will just keep adding to the queue of different playthroughs we want to do. The next one I think is going to be, as soon as we bring an end to the Fallout one, which is going to be soon, very soon. Maybe the same day this goes up, potentially. The next one will be probably a Roman, sort of, you know, ancient world one. following that, I'm going to try very hard to get a 40k one going. Even if the mod isn't finished, at least if I can get it into like a playable state, we'll try to jump in and I'll work on it as we go if I'm able to. But beyond that, there was the Clone Wars playthrough, which I'm still going to have to revisit that mod at some point to get it working. And that's pretty much it. So we can incorporate challenges, we can incorporate different playthrough ideas, whatever you guys want to see. There was a lot of different Total War suggestions, so we'll do some additional Total War. We are doing Rome 2 right now. I don't know if I want to do a second Total War playthrough on top of that, or if I want to wait until that one is over. But that one might be a while still. We're only, I want to say like 6 episodes in, so there's still going to be a while to go, though we are conquering pretty efficiently in that one. A lot of requests for Mount Blade. We will come back to Mount Blade at some point. It's just a matter of when. I was kind of hoping I would take a break from Mount Blade and Bannerlord would be out and we'd just transition to that. But obviously Bannerlord is, I don't even know anymore. So it's not even worth talking about Bannerlord. We'll just, whenever I'm not burnt out on Warband, we'll try a new mod. Or we'll revisit a playthrough we already did, though I don't know that I have this save anymore for Prophecy of Pendor. So I don't think we could revisit that one. That would have to be new. But the Kingdom mod, I'm pretty sure I still have that save. In fact, I'm almost positive. So we could revisit the Kingdom playthrough where we were the Holy Calradian Empire. Not the same one in Bannerlord. We kind of invented our own. Kingdoms and Castles is something we can revisit for sure. And then Freeman Guerrilla Warfare is something we'll do for sure. Because that's pretty easy. I just need to get a hold of a copy and play it. We don't need to do anything fancy with it. And then it seems like Paradox stuff. So Crusader Kings, Hearts of Iron, I guess Stellaris is Paradox too. But we'll do some stuff like that. I'll have to decide what I want to do with the current Crusader Kings playthrough. It seems like everybody's a little bit bored of it. Though there are some people that are really interested to see where it goes. We're basically just steamrolling everything at this point. So I might call it, be like, you know, nobody's going to stop us unless we somehow get overthrown. We've won like 6 major civil wars at this point. Nobody's going to take us out, so I think it's pretty obvious what the ultimate destination of that's going to be. What else? So just looking through everything else, I think that's it. If you guys want to see that like Throwback Thursday playthrough or, you know, idea turn into a series, let me know as well, because that's something I've been considering. I just haven't really, you know, known if it's worth doing or not. So feel free to chime in on that as well. But otherwise, thanks for making it this far. If you have, obviously, you wouldn't be hearing it otherwise. And I guess look forward to some Stellaris and Freeman Guerrilla Warfare in the very near future, and some Kingdoms and Castles potentially. And I guess we'll just leave it at that for now. But feel free to continue to suggest more ideas in the comments, or chime in on any of the ones I mentioned here that weren't, or that were derived from the comments that we saw. But yeah, I'll leave it there for now. This has already gone on for over an hour, and that's excessive, way excessive. So thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you guys back here for whatever comes next.